Well, the government promised us clarity, certainty and affordability. Do we really have that? In relation to the charges themselves, I guess we do now. We know that a family will be paying €260 a year for their water. A single person will pay €160 a year. And then there's a rebate for each of those of €100 a year. Penalties, though, will be pretty severe. After 4 years, for example, they could range anything from €1,000 to €1,100 all the way up to €1,600, and it's at that point the government believes that through Irish Water it would be worth pursuing people through the courts in order to claim those back. One of the other big issues for people was, of course, PPS numbers. Those have been handed over in their hundreds of thousands to Irish Water, but those will now be destroyed in front of a data protection commissioner and independently verified. And if you now go on to register with Irish Water, you will be no longer required to give your PPS number. Now, also the conservation grant that we talked about, €100 there, that will take some time to implement, and it could be in fact next autumn before you get that. So you will indeed be paying 1 or 2 bills at least before you're able to get that refund. The other big issues, of course, were in relation to privatisation, and the government has said that there will be a plebiscite. Now, the problem with the word plebiscite is it's not a referendum, it's not constitutionally binding, and therefore there is no absolute certainty that if the people voted to retain Irish Water in public ownership in the future, that that would have to go ahead, and is open to any future government to indeed amend the law to remove that clause. Now, tenants' deposits, if you're a tenant and you don't pay your bill, there is the option for the landlord to take the money that you haven't paid over for your water from your deposit if you're deciding to move on. And of course, they are looking at attachment orders, whereby if you try to sell your house and you haven't paid your water bills, that the price of the house, that the money would be deducted from there in the future. A lot of talk about beating the cap, and this is where meters come into play. About 500,000 meters now installed. They will continue to be installed around the country. The point the government is making is that if you actually do conserve water, that you can then get your metered bill rather than the so-called capped bill, and that if you are using 10 to 15% less than the average at the moment, you could in fact beat the cap and bring your bills underneath. So clarity, certainty, affordability, they were the words the government has been using for the last few weeks. It appears that we have that in a lot of areas, but 1 or 2 areas not so clear, and won't become clear for months and indeed years ahead. For Newstalk.com at Leinster House, I'm Paraic Gallagher.